Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the PokerNews Podcast. This is episode number 495. I am your host, Sarah Herring, joined by our very favorite co-host, Jeff Platt. Jeff, what is happening in the city of Sin?
There is a lot happening in the beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada, because we have made it at the time of taping this podcast. The World Series of Poker is officially underway. The summer poker grind begins.
Here we go, guys. And
Yep.
Although it is the most exciting time of the year for sure for everyone in poker, it is also an ass ton of work. But I do look forward to it. It is, it is really exciting work. And it's like a little taste of summer camp. It's always so good to see all the people that you don't get to see all year round, or even meet in person the people that we've been interviewing on this show. We have tons of stuff coming up for you guys this summer. We're going to do the best we can with the podcast, get as many people on as we can, do as many video series as we can do. We're going to kind of keep it like a casual live format. There might be lots of times, if you guys aren't already fans on Facebook or aren't already on YouTube, there might be times where we just pop on and go live. There's like a little bell icon, I think, on YouTube. You click that, you can get notified when we go live. So just in case, we sneak one in on you, you can be ready. Just slide on in and get that email. We have a great show for you guys, tons of stuff. Jeff's been working all weekend long. He's been at the WPT, so he got tons of sort of insider scoop for you. We've got Sam Simmons from PokerCentral, who we initially were not even going to put all of that interview up on the podcast. Our initial thing had been to do a little bit of it live and then save some for you guys for the podcast. But dude, all this stuff was so good. We're putting it all in there for you. This show is going to blow your mind. This show should be a little taste of what you guys can expect from the WSOP. We've got Jeff out there just crushing it like a real journalist. So I can be really grateful to you for that, Jeff. So first off, tell me a little bit about what did you do this weekend? What do you got going on?
I went to the Esports Arena in Las Vegas, which is at the Luxor, which is an amazing, I think, $25 to $30 million complex that they built in place of the old LAX nightclub, which used to be one of the hottest clubs in Las Vegas. They realized Goodbye. They realized the shift to esports. They built this amazing arena, and the World Poker Tour saw it and said, this kind of makes sense for what we want to do as far as televised final tables may be concerned. So they had a televised final table. They had the final table of their Tournament of Champions, which was awesome, which looks really, really good live. It's just this immense arena with massive screens. It's like a sporting event, and I think it's going to look really, really good on TV. So it was great. The World Poker Tour gave us a whole tour of the complex, of the studio, of the behind-the-scenes stuff. Anything and everything there was to show us, that is what they did. They gave us a nice gift bag, by the way, Sarah. Maybe I'll share some of the gifts with you.
Oh, that swag life. I see.
We're living that swag life. And then they made this massive announcement as it pertains to their season 17 schedule, a dramatic shift in that schedule. They announced that all of their televised final tables will take place at the Esports Arena in Las Vegas. All of them. So let's say final table of the LA Poker Classic at Commerce Casino. That will take a break. They will move to the Esports Arena in Vegas. The WPT will fly out the participants of the final six. So it's a little bit of that November 9 feel.
Wow.
Not that much of a delay, but maybe a 3 to 6 weeks delay from making the final table to the actual televised final six.
Wow. I mean, that makes a lot of sense hype-wise. And also, I mean, if for those of us who come from a production background, actually, it's probably infinitely cheaper. You could put everybody up in like some sick-ass suite and like go crazy on it than it is to reset up, re-rig, re-tear down, a final table in every city. And even, it sounds ridiculous, but even just the RFID tables and having those have, all these different sorts of like camera functions, shipping those tables across the country. Yeah. I did some research on it. I mean, it's thousands of dollars just to ship a table from one place to another. So, I mean, I think as a viewer, this is probably a really, smart choice. It's just going to be more beautiful to watch, but it'll be interesting, I'm sure. Was the response sort of mixed, or what do people seem to be saying out there?
Yeah, I'd say mixed is the perfect way to put it. You obviously are going to run into some scheduling conflicts when a tournament is, let's just say, for example, on January 15th, but then the final table is on February 15th. But people are going to go into that tournament knowing that the final table will be on a delay so that they will have that in their schedule right when they start playing. And then there's also a mixed reaction because of a delay in payouts. You remember, Sarah, the November 9 would pay the final 9 at least ninth place money.
Right.
Then when they came back, they'd get paid the additional for whatever place they finished. The World Poker Tour, most likely because of Nevada gaming control laws, they say that you cannot pay out first through sixth place until they get to Vegas, until they complete the tournament at the Esports Arena at the Luxor. So let's go back to our example before. If you played a tournament in mid-January, you made the final six, you're due for at least $204,000. You won't be able to see any of that money until you make it to the Luxor. Now, there's also a slight advantage because in California, they take off 7% of your prize winnings for taxes. If you make the final six, since you're getting paid out in Nevada, you will not be getting taxed. So there are some advantages here and there, but those scheduling and payouts.
I mean, that's sick, though, if you think about it, like 7%, even if they're putting it in escrow or they're putting it in somewhere, you're never making 7% on your money, like pretty much anywhere anyways. So, I mean, to me, I'd be like, sign me up. You got to lock my money up for 6 months. Like, that's fine. You're probably making 1% everywhere anyway. So you're still like ahead slightly. 1%.
Yeah, that's so true. And along those lines, on the super positive side of the spectrum, like we said, the arena is awesome. It will look great on TV, and it's great for your own personal branding if you make the final six. Not only do you have time to get coached up, become a better player, but you also have time to go out and get some sponsors. You say, I'm going to be in this massive arena. It's going to be on Fox Sports. This is still Fox Sports' highest rated weekly show. So the exposure that you get from this break, I think, will significantly help. And then, Sarah, you said it from a production standpoint, it's great because you can have just the whole crew there in Vegas. You have all the equipment in Vegas. And it also helps from a storytelling perspective because in the past, guys would make the final table, and then the next day would be that actual final table. So maybe they do, 1 6-minute interview with the production staff. Now the production staff has a couple weeks to get to know these players, to really build these stories, and I think that that'll show in future WPT episodes.
That was the whole thing I always said about the November 9. Like, I totally get, obviously this is people's jobs and all this, but my job is media. So for me, it was like getting those like, true life MTV stories where like, you had like a villain and a hero and all this, coming into the final table. I really think that's key. And I also think this might sound, I don't know, a little bit trite or silly, but also like getting a chance to say, for example, you qualified or whatever, and you're like, my homie from Nebraska or something like this, like getting a trip to Vegas to like, be on TV and all. I really feel like even just that experience, it's sort of like a little taste of that November 9 life, a little taste. You can invite your family if they want to come or whatever. Like, I feel like this, for me, from my perspective, this is exactly what final tables should be about. Although I know poker players will hate that.
And you'll hear this from WPT President Adam Pliska in just a couple minutes, but he said that these final six for every one of the World Poker Tour final tables will be treated like an absolute star. You'll get flown out to Vegas on World Poker Tour's dime. You'll be put up on World Poker Tour's dime. Your family and friends will be able to come. They'll use a WPT concierge service. You have cameras following you around all the time. You'll receive sweet swag from the, I think now, like hundreds of sponsors that the World Poker Tour has. This will be an unreal experience, especially for those players, like you mentioned, the amateur players who not only get to play in a World Poker Tour event, but then they get flown out to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
They get to be on stage in this massive, beautiful arena. It's really, really cool.
Man, and this is, by the way, not sponsored by the WPT. Just
that much is true.
Whenever we get all like lovey, I have to be like, listen, you guys, this is just real life. Well, since we're already talking about it, I feel like let's just get into this Adam Pliska interview. Let's throw it to that now, and then also a quick shout out to our sponsors, Global Poker. Global Poker has been a loyal sponsor of the show for a few months now, and I wanted to see if the rumors were true. In fact, the rumor being that Global Poker is really focused on, recreational players and making a game that's really fun. So I went to Twitch to check out some of the people who've been streaming Global Poker, and it seems like it's pretty legit. I saw the Golden Blazer, who's on twitch.tv. He mostly plays $30 to $100 sit and goes and no limit hold'em. And he also plays PLO just to keep things spicy, as he said. But he says, Global Poker is a site that's much more friendly than other sites. You sit at the table and there's often chat going on between the players. There's a Facebook group of people who play on this site. It's really awesome to be a member of this community. Now, I, for one, could definitely get down with some chatter and some fun while I'm playing. So I am definitely going to be checking out globalpoker.com. You guys can do the same. Even in the US, you can play for real cash prizes on globalpoker.com.
All right, we are here with World Poker Tour President and CEO Adam Pliska. Adam, we're here at the Esports Arena at the Luxor. What does this do to enhance the overall viewer experience, both live and from a television viewer standpoint?
Sure. Well, for a long time, we've been talking about poker as a sport. Mm-hmm. And from the evolution over the last 15, 20 years is, I think as poker has grown, people have now begun to take it seriously. They have taken it seriously. They've seen they realize, unlike in the early days in the World Poker Tour, when people would call me and say, hey, are you still going to work at that company that has that poker fad going on? They realize it's here to stay. It's a massive industry. But when you see an arena like this, mm-hmm. and you realize that poker can have a home that is equivalent to any other sport, it does, by its very nature, elevate it. If you are a spectator, you come in and you feel like you're in a sports facility, and you can grab some great food and have a drink and watch the sports play out in not only right in front of you on the big 50-foot screens all that surround you. If you're at home, it has the majesty that other sports have, and allows you to cover the event in ways that are more traditional to sports. We have, as you've seen here, a commentator booth that's separate from the perch, which is separate from the owner's box. You can do breakout interviews over there. You have a place to come in where people can interact with sponsors of the event, and then of course that incredible stage with the theater-like production behind it.
That incredible stage will become the new home for all World Poker Tour televised final tables. Take me through that process, how that decision came to be.
Sure. Well, there's first of all, our sister company is the Esports Arena here, and so we brought maybe about a year and a half ago, as I was working with the parent company, it was decided that they would look for a new flagship property someplace. They'd already developed an Esports Arena in mm-hmm. Beijing. They were working on acquiring the group in Orange County, and which is now Orange County, Oakland, and soon to be Seattle. And they were looking for a flagship property, and we had a World Poker Tour had a relationship with the MGM Resorts for 16 years. So I brought the executives here to at MGM, or I brought the executives at Esports Arena to the MGM, and we took a walk around. And I think I was here with them maybe 18 months ago or so, and this was the old LAX nightclub. It looked like a perfect facility. And from there, the CEO of that group, Judd Hannigan, and the group at Allied Esports worked tirelessly with the team at MGM to create this. Steve Zanella and Nick, who's the president here at the Luxor, to create this beautiful facility and to really transform that. And you can see how MGM has embraced it. It's Esports Arena is wrapped on the side of the pyramid. So now we had an amazing asset that we could use, right? The idea that we already had a lot of synergies between poker and esports was evident, but clearly the idea that poker too could have a home that was that significant was a very appealing part of the whole process. Would have made the introduction no matter what, but it was an appealing part regardless. But then when you really get into it, you realize it changes a lot of things. You know, there's not very many people who can afford to do this level quality of broadcast quality poker television out there. And in part because it's quite expensive to do it. But when you have a facility like this, you can imagine that it is that it doesn't. You're not spending your money on moving massive sets around or whatever because the massive, beautiful set is all around you. Well, that is money that would otherwise fall off the truck, meaning that no consumer is getting any value from did this get set up or not. So it allows us to keep that and invest in the product and invest in the tour. So that's from the financial side. And then it also allows us strategically to work with properties because we still will send E&G television crews to properties. It's just that this final table will be here. So it allows us to highlight casinos in different properties all over the world now who might not otherwise be able to afford to ship the entire massive set and massive crew and all of those down to wherever in the world that we're going to be next, and bring a final table here that is magnificent so that every one of those players feels like they're a superstar when they come out here.
And along those lines, from a television production standpoint, specifically storytelling, does having a little bit of a break in the action before the final table help that segment of the broadcast?
Sure. There's a sensitivity of this, of it can't be too long.
Yeah.
But once you get over figuring out what that it can't be too long, and we're, for us, we're talking in terms of weeks, and then the advantages become very apparent. First of all, you have final tables, and we're about to see a fantastic final table today at the TOC where every single one of these people. Mm-hmm. We have a background on them. It's just great. But that's not always the case, as you know. And sometimes, and part of the World Poker Tour story is you could be the everyman and find yourself at the final table across the street, across the table from Darren Elias, who's winning everything, right? And so you can imagine the production dilemma that occurs with that. You go to an event, you end up shooting people you already know. Now you don't know who is going to, the person who's not known in poker, who's going to stand out. So suddenly they start coming up. You only at the end realize who they are. You start writing down their name. You know nothing about them because they're playing. Oh, by the way, tomorrow morning you're doing a final table. So what happens is play ends, and somewhere around midnight we say, can you fill out this entire sheet about telling us your life story? And by the way, show up at 11 o'clock in the morning. We're going to do an interview with you, and then we're going to throw it in the TV. Well, that little bit of pause allows us to understand everybody at that table, and that will greatly enhance the show and greatly show that the storylines throughout the show will be even better in terms of painting a competitive picture of what is going on. So that's great. And then the other part of it is, with that little delay, you will have become a champion. You will have earned your place into the Champions Club. So we will be treating you as a champion deserves to be treated. We will take care of your flights. We will take care of your concierge treatments. We will make sure that your hotel is paid for. And now, because this is consolidated, we can treat champions as they deserve to be. We really have made a concerted effort over the last few years to make the Champions Club something real, that there are true benefits, that it is something to aspire to. But this allows us to go to a whole new level of what we can do for the WPT champions. And
we see the quote-unquote mainstream sponsors. We see Rockstar, we see Dr. Pepper. What does that say to the potential of the future of the World Poker Tour?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, if you look back many years ago, the World Poker Tour had, in the early days, anyone could get a sponsor. In 2003, say the word poker and somebody would put a patch on you and
you're good to go.
You're good to go. Your kid's tuition is paid for. But it became very, very difficult in after the mid 2000s, and at some point we were with the rest of everybody else. Our sponsorship team, we'd have some sponsors, but they were very endemic to the sport. And so we just stopped. We decided one year we were not going to take sponsors, and we were just going to figure out what the heck was going on. And we developed a sponsorship program that was very responsive to sponsors. So sponsors actually felt like they could get something out of it, and responsive to the community, so that the community felt like they were getting something out of it. So it wasn't just, they were just, walking by a NASCAR car where it's like, whoa, I've just been hit by a million sponsors. And so it has been great. Hublot Watch has given out more than 40 watches to WPT champions, and Royal Caribbean on the cruises, and you see here today we have this week has had the best dressed poker players, because Buttercloth has been fitting WPT champions with shirts, and we have shoes, and Zynga Poker has been giving away things, and all of our sponsorship partners have been real partners. We make sure that they have deep integration with the community, but now when you come into a stage like this, you have an experiential place out here, right? You look at Tito's Vodka. When you walk in, you can experience it right for yourself, right outside, and this transforms the way that the interaction between the customer and the sponsorship partner. Not to mention the very obvious one, which is it's not such a bad thing that your logo can show up on a 50-foot board behind the players and be dynamic, meaning it's not just frozen, right? It can go away, it can come back, so people will pay attention to this, as opposed to just kind of blocking it out, as oftentimes happens when you have a static image.
And finally, Adam, you recently signed an extension. How would you sum up how excited you are to continue your work here at WPT?
Yeah, I love this. To me, it's been, I didn't come from a background of poker, as everybody in the industry knows. It's well known. I was a TV producer and a lawyer, and I was the general counsel of World Poker Tour. But I am a person passionate about the management of people and businesses, and I've had a long tradition in storytelling. And we are, we say we're the storytellers of poker. Our primary mission, really, is to make sure that you walk away from the World Poker Tour with a story to tell. And so seeing the World Poker Tour go from all $10,000 events, which you really had to be very serious to play, to a company where you can play social games, you can play the 500 series, you can play 3,500, you can play the 10,000, you might be able to get into the Tournament of Champions if you make it at that point. You can play, we have a high roller event that we've just completed. To see that there is a place for everybody in poker to come along on the train, that's very exciting. And more and more my job becomes about acquisitions and opportunities and capital allocation, and we have a team that is, I don't just say this because I work with them every day, but I really think that they're second to none. And we just had a roast for Lyle Berman and Steve Lipscomb, who founded the World Poker Tour, and 2 times the reference of Camelot came up, because the idea is you rarely get a time when people work together so well that they love being together. We say the WPT family, and what I always clarify about that verbiage is that is not always meant in a jolly positive way. I mean, it's positive, but not always in a good times way. A family member means that you stick with each other and you get through the chaos and you get through the down times and you figure everything out. And if I got to tell you, if I was in a trench, there is no other people that I want than the people that we have assembled. To get into our group is not an easy thing, but once you are, we're very good at selections, and it has transformed the company. So I owe a lot to my team, and I am so gracious for them every single day. The idea that I get to work and collaborate with them for any period of time is a tremendous blessing to me.
Adam, thanks for the time. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
I met Adam a couple times. I interviewed him at the, I think the very first American Poker Awards, and he did he gave a speech at one of the conferences, and he's clearly a leader that I think people can get behind. And they just renewed his contract, right, this year?
Yeah, they did. They did. He signed a 4-year extension this year. So he loves being around there. He reminded me a lot, and this was before I knew that he was actually friends with this guy. He reminds me of Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, because they both have a great product already, but they're both constantly thinking about how to improve that product. Donnie Peters, former PokerNews podcast host,
fuck Donnie Peters,
with the World Poker Tour, he told me that in fact Adam Silver and Adam Pliska are actually really good friends. So it makes sense. They're kind of cut from the same cloth. He's a super bright guy, and I think he's always looking out for the future of the WPT.
Man, I thought obviously you were going to say he's like Obama, because that's all I could think when I saw him. I was like, I'm struggling here, you guys.
Oh, yeah.
So obvious. Well, they threw on a huge, amazing, fantastic event this weekend. Of course, my social media was just full of pics of parties, and there was a little poker. I think that, they did a little of that too. And it was Waxy, right? Matt Waxman that took this bad boy down, which I feel like I haven't seen Waxman I see him periodically, but I'm sure he's doing a million other things. I think, in fact, I did an interview with him at the Wsop last year, and he was talking about, some other sort of business-centric ventures. But you actually talked to Waxy. Tell me a little bit about, what the sort of buzz and hype and all this going on. I know Matas Simbolas, the Lithuanian, I've interviewed him a couple times as well, and he's a fantastic player. Obviously, Darren, Elias, Nick Schulman, David Benjamin. He crushed for not being around.
It's a sick final table. It's a prestigious tournament, the Tournament of Champions. You're only invited to this if you've won a WPT main event in the past. And then every winner from this season 16 of the World Poker Tour, got free rolled into this tournament. If you're a champion in the past, you could buy in for $15,000, and that's exactly what Waxman did. WPT adds $50,000 to that first place prize, which is already pretty nice. WPT adds one of those sick Hublot watches. WPT adds a JetSmarter membership for private jets that's valued at $50K. So overall, this is a pretty massive win for Waxman, a guy who's had some really impressive wins. He's won a WPT main event in the past. He's won a bracelet. He's had some super sick, really deep runs in the main, not quite final table deep, but pretty close. So it's all coming together for him. And like you said, Sarah, he's working on a couple of business ventures. So I don't think he plays poker as often as he was grinding maybe back in 2013, 2014, 2015. But his skill level has remained pretty high.
I mean, it's interesting, though, too, because you would think that in terms of looking for value or looking for spots where you're going to have an edge, like popping back into a tournament, which is mostly populated with just sickos and great poker players, wouldn't always seem like the most plus EV option. But clearly in this case it was. And you talked to him, so let's hear what Waxy had to say.
All right, we are here with the champion of the Tournament of Champions. Matt, what does this win mean to you?
Oh, this is amazing. It's such a prestigious title to be able to beat all these big names in poker. And, this is only my second WPT final table that I've ever made. So it's nice to get the win again. Batting 100. Or 1,000. Batting 1,000.
I'm sure this final table experience is a little different. We're at the Esports arena at the Luxor. What was the overall experience like for you?
It was really cool, man. If I had one criticism, it would be that the table was facing out towards the audience. So, I kind of had to, turn to the side every single hand to, be able to look at.
Right.
But this arena is amazing. I'm a huge esports fan. I play a lot of video games, and it's just really cool to be able to compete here.
What do you think this can do to enhance the overall viewing experience for poker fans at home?
What could this do?
Yeah.
I got a few ideas.
Okay.
I don't know if I want to share them.
Okay, that's fair.
It's kind of part of a business that I'm working on.
Okay.
But I'm definitely planning to bridge the gap between poker and esports soon. and definitely make it way more fun to watch for the spectators.
Okay, I like that. That was a good tease. Take me through today. What went right for you here at this final table?
A lot of things went right. I had Jacks win against Queens for all the chips three-handed with Darren, and then I was able to just apply a lot of pressure to the table, and it seemed like all my bluffs were really working out. So that's sometimes bigger than just like getting good hands. It's just making sure that the other players don't have good hands. And I felt like I was picking like a lot of good spots and gambling when I needed to, and the cards just went my way.
What turned out to be the final hand? Were you pretty close to folding? At one point we see you pick up your cards.
Yeah, I was just doing that to get a read.
Okay.
I was pretty sure I was calling, but I didn't want to just rush it and get him right back over $1 million again. Yeah. But the whole time I was planning to just check call down, and by his bet sizing, I was pretty sure that he was going to go for a river bluff. So it worked as planned, but I just didn't want to just make any crazy decisions that I might regret later. So I just decided to study a little longer.
You have a WPT title, you have a World Series of Poker bracelet, you have a couple sick deep runs in the main.
Yeah.
Can you rank this win at all?
Yeah, man, this would be number 2 right after. Okay. This is the second most money I think I've ever won in a tournament, and I would put it right after the first World Poker Tour. The World Series of Poker win that I had for a bracelet was definitely like my toughest battle. Like I couldn't even speak after that tournament because it was just such a brutal heads up that I played with Eric. So I guess that felt really good to win. But I mean, I'm kind of just concerned about the money these days. So this is definitely a number 2. It might even be number 1. I don't even know.
Finally, Matt, what are your plans for this summer, and how nice is it to start the summer with a win like this?
It's very, very nice. It's funny because I'm so happy with my living situation this summer that I offered my roommates to buy 0.5% of all my action for the whole summer. Ooh. Right before I play this tournament. And that's a really good deal because they add so much money to this field, and there's some pretty good spots in the field of players. And they were like a little nervous, like, oh, how much can I lose? And I'm just like, you're not going to lose more than 500 max. And now I'm just like, you're guaranteed to win, like right away, like 2 days later. So it's pretty cool, yeah.
Matt, thanks for the time. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, why are we not roommates with Waxman?
I know. That is exactly what I was thinking. It must be nice when you buy a piece of somebody's package, usually, or hopefully I should say, it's full of sweats. But to be free rolling the summer after one event, to know that you have a huge profit locked up after one event, yeah, we'll take that. Should have been roommates with the guy.
And it's like, I mean, this isn't really like part of your WSOP summer package most of the time. So I'm like, he's a homie, and if you guys haven't listened, you definitely need to. We have another podcast, All In, with Evan Jarvis, and when we did our PokerNews Podcast interview with him like 6 or 7 months ago, he was talking about sort of on day 3 or 4 of the main event, the year that Greg Merson won, he had way more chips than Greg, and they kind of, did a little swap. And then I was thinking, dude, that is the best thing that ever happens. Like, I dream of the day where I can be sweating someone for millions and millions of dollars for them, where I can just get like just a little piece, just a small side hustle.
And then they win the tournament, and you win all the money. Everybody wins. A beautiful thing.
I feel like it's so awkward though. Like, I don't know. I think when I cashed in the ladies event at the WSOP, Christy and Lynn and I had all said, oh, we'll swap like 1%. But then when it comes down to it and it's like, $80, like, I'm like, do I really like go get $80 and give it to you? And
yes.
If you cash, like, girl, I'm going to be outside, like, asking, I'm coming for you. But we have another sponsor this week, you guys, one that we haven't had yet before. And I've been partying all weekend with my new supplies. I've been having so much fun. But let's just have a listen to our latest sponsor. You guys need to step up your vape game this season with ELiquid.com. Browse through the largest selection of liquid, hardware, replacement coils, vape accessories, and DIY supplies that you'll find anywhere. Replenish your favorite ELiquid, try something new, grab a starter kit, or treat yourself to an upgrade. Whatever you choose, ELiquid.com is sure to have it. Value priced and ready to be shipped directly to you in lightning speed. Be sure to check out ELiquid.com. Everything vape simplified. Now, I have to admit that I was not a vapor before we got this sponsor, but I gave it a little shot. It's super cute for those who are listening and not watching. Put it together. It was super easy. The choosing was wild when looking at the liquids because it just has so many. It's like whatever your flavor is, whatever you're into, they have 1,800 e-liquids. They have all different kinds. I mean, I chose, of course, the cheapest pen, but they have, you know, from the fanciest, different colors, different sizes. It was super easy, came really fast. I mean, when I looked sort of online, I was shocked to see how competitively priced everything was. They had massive sales. You know me, was in the sales section of the website. And essentially, whatever you need for vaping, they have all of it. What I ordered is actually, I think, more along the lines of hookah. At least it kind of tastes like that, and it doesn't contain nicotine. But you can go kind of whatever way you want, whether you're looking to make a lifestyle change or you just want a better shopping experience. ELiquid.com has it all. They just feels like they keep the customer in mind, and they have so many options that it's kind of, I don't know, I would be shocked if you couldn't find what you needed. Now, we have our very own URL here, which is ELiquid, ELiquid, eliquid.com/PokerNews. And you can use the promo code PokerNews during checkout. Again, that's eliquid.com/PokerNews and use the promo code PokerNews during checkout. You get 20% off your first purchase. 20%. Now, when I spoke to the representative from ELiquid last week, he was super clear that this is a really, really big number, that 20% is not something that they do very often. So I'm really grateful. And so for my listeners, again, it's eliquid.com/PokerNews and use the promo code PokerNews. Give it a shot. Enjoy. I have been. My husband and I have been sitting out there just vaping it up. Now, Jeff.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm going to get you into that vape scene. I'm going to try when I get there. I packed my bag for Barcelona this morning,
okay.
And I packed up some sunshades for you. So
nice. Thank you.
Sunshades coming. And once I get to the WSOP, you guys Jeff and I will come up with some kind of a giveaway so you guys too can get some of those sunshades actions. Man, I don't know why it's so hard. It's like I have a lisp or something. I have a hard time talking about it. But before we get in, since the WSOP will be kicking off when this podcast comes out, it only makes sense for us to talk a little bit about some of our WSOP predictions. So this is an article that we do every year on PokerNews.com. And every year I wonder why they want me to participate in this because although I will say I have been pretty successful in some of my predictions. I feel like maybe like a lot of people, when they make these predictions, they know in their guts. They're like, oh, this is for sure what I've been thinking. But I, on the other hand, have to go in and do like lots of research and say, who's hot right now? What's going on? Has this person won a bracelet before? Like, I really have to go through. But as a result, I've been player of the year in like the top 5 like the last 3 or 4 years. So I feel like I should get I feel like I should get an award. So just so you guys know, I don't take myself too seriously, but it's very clear that I'm just really good at these predictions. I'm ready for it.
Lead us off then.
All right, so
fire away with one.
My most favorite one, and the one that I usually am the closest on, although this year I for sure may or may not do this, is who will win player of the year. And this is interesting because there's 2 questions on our 2018 predictions. One is who's going to win the 50K Poker Players Championship and who will win the one drop, the big one for one drop. And then the other one is who's going to win, player of the year and who will win the main event. And it's like, these are all sort of interrelated because realistically speaking, like if you win either the big one for one drop or the 50K Poker Players Championship, you're high on the list for points, etc. We did go through the whole point thing, but basically, I think I chose. Let me decide. Who do you choose?
I am going to choose Max Silver for Player of the Year.
Ooh, I like
really,
that.
because like you were talking about, he's my pick for the 50K, and if I think he's going to win the 50K, and I know he's going to play basically everything. He shipped a 3K limit Hold'em 6-max bracelet last year, then I lean towards him. He plays all the games. He knows all the numbers. He's just a super bright guy, a super intelligent guy who's always studying to get better. So I'll take Max Silver as the 2018 World Series of Poker Player of the Year.
Oh my gosh, look at what I chose. This is amazing.
Yeah,
So last year I think I chose John Monette maybe, or Benny Glazer. I can't remember, but basically top 5, all these things. And then I think in my mind I was going to pick Stephen Chidwick, but I ended up picking Stephen Chidwick for who would win the 50K Poker Players Championship or who would win the big one for one drop. I can't decide which one I ultimately decided, but basically once I picked him for one of those things, I was like, ugh, I probably have to pick someone else to be the Player of the Year, or else it just seems like I'm way too into Stephen Chidwick. And I chose Ben Yu. Which, so always, obviously, everyone, our consideration is who plays mixed games when you decide who's going to win Player of the Year, but who also plays No Limit really well and who has a bankroll to support playing a lot of tournaments. Now, Ben Yu, he's got, 2 bracelets now, I think, but basically he plays every limit event, and he's just crushes limit. And I think this is something that people don't take into consideration enough. There's some theories that potentially because limit is limit, that it's already solved, that there is almost in every given situation without human beings, there is a right answer. And so players who are super skilled and super strong at limit really, I think, have probably even a better edge, a bigger edge than players who are super, super skilled at no limit or even PL08. Or I think I'm hoping that this edge, this limit edge is what really puts Ben Yu at the top. Although I don't know that it's always limit players who crush, but who do you have winning the big one for one drop?
I'm going to go with Jake Schindler. Now I know I predicted him to win the Super High Roller Bowl. That did not quite work out, but I think that just means he's due for another massive high roller tournament win. He's one of the best players in the game. I feel like I can't go wrong with that prediction in any form or fashion. So I'll take Jake Schindler to win the $1 million one drop.
Okay, that
Who you
makes
got?
sense. So I did have, for the Poker Players Championship, I did choose Stephen Chidwick. Oh, who, by the way, in my description, I said that his fiancée, Marine, brings him food every day, which I do think is plus EV. She does it to some of his friends, too. But she messaged me to say she is not his fiancée anymore, folks. They are married.
Oh, so, there we go.
Put a little egg on my face in that spot. But I had Justin Bonomo to win the big one for one drop. He's definitely, in basically any high roller situation, he's on your list of potential winners. Yeah. And I think when I filled this out a month or so ago, he had just crushed a bunch of things in Monte Carlo, like usual. And actually, same like we're talking about the Super High Roller Bowl last year. He was final table, but I can't remember exactly which position he went out in. But he's just always someone to look out for. And so something we've been talking a little bit more about also is, women. This is a question that we ask pretty much every year. How many women will win an open event? And I always overshoot this every time. What do you think, Jeff?
But not this time. I'm going to go with, I think, the same number that you had in 2. I'll take 2 women to win open bracelet events. And I'll be specific and say that Kristen Bicknell and Maria Ho will be those 2 to win those bracelet events. But I feel pretty confident. I think at least 2. I think at least 2 this year. What about you?
I had for sure. I think I put that I think it's possible. This is my hope that a woman will win a PLO or another mixed game event. So I was hoping either Vivian Saliba or Ite Esther Taylor will take down. Ite crushed last year. I think she definitely has the potential, has the skill to do that, and also I think the bankroll between all of her homies to make it happen. And I also put that I think it's possible that one of these maybe 5K no limit events we could see a Maria Ho or Natasha Mercer. She's come close several times now, as has Maria Ho, and they're actually both people also I have as people that haven't won a bracelet that should win a bracelet this year, hopefully. But it's interesting when you look at the percentage, when they say okay, maybe there's 4 to 5% of the field is women, and then there's 50 something events. how many events are there this year, actually? I feel like it used to be like
70s,
53,
right.
and then now it's like 70s. So, I mean, realistically speaking, I think we might be like shooting pretty high for like if there's 70 events and say 50 of them, 60 something are open. What do you have, like 2 seniors events?
Yeah.
A couple of, I mean, let's just say that the $1 million one is not really an open
right.
open if you're super rich. But yeah, I mean, if we had 2 women, I would be super happy. I would be super sick. Who do you see winning the ladies event? Kristen Bicknell.
Are you playing this year?
I can't play.
Oh.
Also, I'm poor.
Then I'll have to take. You know what? Actually, I'm going to take Kathy Liebert to win the ladies event. I've seen her around at the Venetian. She loves the grind. I think that structure, because it's kind of a shootout of sorts. You got to go get some chips early, and just attack. And I think she's fairly relentless at the poker table. So I'll go with Kathy Liebert to ship the ladies event. And Sarah, I do think this year a woman makes the World Series of Poker main event final table, which would be huge for poker.
Do you want to bet on that? I'm willing to take a bet.
If you give me some odds,
I
sure.
wish that would happen. I hope that will happen. It's a very statistical improbability, I would say, but man, for the women out there, I really hope so. Let's just do one more quick shout out to our sponsors. I want to talk also about one other thing before we get Sam Simmons on, but in the meantime, let's hear what's up from Global Poker. Thank you so much to Global Poker for sponsoring the show and for providing a space where people are able to play that game that we love in a way that's fun, friendly, and easy for people who also have a regular job going. I talked to Adam Tull, who's a streamer also on Twitch. He streams mostly Global Poker. It's TIZULL, twitch.tv/TIZULL, Tizzle. Anyways, he's supposed to be one of the most, if not the most popular streamers for Global Poker on Twitch. And he said, I like that there's mass appeal. It doesn't require too much time to get an account set up and start jumping into the action. Jeff Platt also mentioned that, by the way. I also like that the tournaments don't take more than 5 hours. Most of them are done within 3 to 4 hours. So thank you so much, Adam Tull, for your insights. And thanks again to globalpoker.com for being a sponsor of the show. Now, before we get into Sam Simmons, which I just loved that interview, I want to make sure to talk a little bit about the other thing that was blowing up my feed this weekend on social media. Darren Elias makes history at Aria WPT Bobby Baldwin Classic. So Darren Elias just, I feel like, wins most of the WPTs. Like, whatever's happening, if there's a WPT, there's a very good chance that he's going to be winning it. And he did win this one. It had, I think, an especially large amount of hype because he was heads up against Kitty Kuo, who's everyone's favorite little spicy firecracker, and also just a fantastic poker player. She just has, balls of steel, pardon the, I don't know what's appropriate or inappropriate anymore, but she's got balls. She's not afraid to bluff. She's not afraid to get it in. But the final table was just crazy. Kitty Kuo, third place was Joe McKeon, Dietrich Fast in fourth, Sam Pinzika fifth, and Jonathan Little in sixth. So it's just really a who's who of sick poker players that all have sort of different styles and different approaches to the game. And I actually didn't get to see it, but I can only imagine this must have been just the sickest of the sick.
Yeah, it made for a super entertaining final table. Elias had already had the WPT record for cashes. He has 28 cashes in WPT main events. He'd already made 9 final tables before this one, and he was tied for the record with 3 World Poker Tour wins. He made that 4. A huge help to that was getting the chips in with the old ace deuce against Joe McKeon's ace queen and getting there with that ace deuce. You got to run pretty good to win a World Poker Tour event. So sometimes you need a win with the ace deuce of clubs up against ace queen. And once he won that, it was smooth sailing from there. $387,000 for that first place win, and the sole player on the World Poker Tour to have 4 WPT main event titles.
Man, that's so crazy. That's
really,
really crazy. I don't know. I just think this guy's such a crusher, and I've talked to him a couple times, and he's also just really, he's just not braggadocious. He's really cool, calm, chill. I was like, man, and when I talked to him, he'd won 2 WPTs. I was like, that's a huge accomplishment. I can't believe it. How amazing. And I can't wait to talk to him again this summer. I think, yeah. And now hopefully we'll just get to be seeing a lot more of these WPT final tables in this. And I think that's part 2 of why my social media was exploding. Of course, it's Kitty Kuo.
Yeah.
It's Darren Elias, but it's also, it just looked amazing. It just looked so good.
And then it's Elias in that Tournament of Champions that we referenced earlier at that massive esports arena, finishing 3rd. So he takes first for 387K. He finishes 3rd at the Tournament of Champions. The guy's just on fire. He has all the momentum in the world going into the World Series of Poker.
Man, it's so crazy. So, I guess we need to talk a little bit then, this studio, this PokerGo studio, which I think what PokerGo is doing in Aria is setting up a permanent home. They're going to be there forever. They're going to be pushing out final tables. They're going to be pushing out cash games, all kinds of coverage from Vegas, according to Sam Simmons, maybe every couple days, which is amazing. So before we get Sam on, do you need to throw out any disclaimers or anything else? Should we just...
I just think, we talked to Sam before the Super High Roller Bowl had taken place, but everything he's going to say is going to make sense to you guys if you have watched the Super High Roller Bowl. This is one of the first, this is like the introduction of the PokerGo studio to the world. They had a soft opening, quote unquote, with Poker After Dark a couple weeks prior to this, but this tournament had all of the players all in one room, as opposed to having some players in the poker room and then having to move some to a one table studio because that's where the feature table was. So this is everybody in the same place in the same arena. It's awesome.
Man. And just to be able to shoot in there. I mean, we've had the issue before where when I was doing some video content for 888, we were, you'd have to take they have 10-minute breaks, the short breaks, we'd have to take the players out of the room, bring them to a step and repeat, which none of the players want to do. There's food and drinks on the other side of the curtain, get out of our way. So I'm really excited. I wish I was there. I wish I could have been there for the coverage, but at least we have, Jeff there representing. Well, let's get Sam on the show. What is up, Facebook Live? It is another pseudo episode of the PokerNews Podcast. With this first part, we're going to do straight up live with you, answering all of your Q&A. We are with Sam Simmons, who I'm sure you guys have got to know at this point. He is boss man over at PokerCentral / PokerGo, which has so many things going on. In fact, what is your official title, Sam?
My official title is VP of Content, but I answer to most anything over here.
I feel like in the poker industry, everybody wears so many hats. The official title word is kind of, doesn't exist here. We're pirates. We're rogues. We go crazy. I, of course, am also with Jeff Platt, co-host extraordinaire. I'm missing half your face, Jeff. I need you to just
I can't
over
see
just
my
a
face.
Little. Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Okay, this way?
Nope, other way.
Other way, this way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have mine in a mirror setting.
Someone's new here.
There you go.
Yeah, well, that
it's
much
glorious.
Is very true.
They can't see. This is a whole different setup. What's up, Mario? Thanks for joining us. Let's talk a little bit right now. There's been a lot of announcements coming over the last couple weeks, a lot of really exciting things coming out of PokerCentral, and I feel like we should keep it first off to PokerGo Studio. That seems like the easiest dip our toes in. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that's been really exciting for us. That's been something that's been a really long time coming, probably more than you'd believe. We've had the idea for a couple years now. We've obviously partnered with the Aria 4 years ago in 2015 on our first Super High Roller Bowl, and we've had it there ever since. Obviously, for us, it became optimal from a production standpoint to create a permanent home for all of our events that we do there. So the PokerGo studio became an early idea. I guess this must have been 2016. As you can imagine, for a build out like that, a lot goes into the permits. There's the rent involved, and there's a whole plethora of items to think about, especially when you're talking about a live production studio for a number of different events. And so we spent about a year and a half in preparations, going over contracts and whatnot. And then it was basically a mad rush for the past 5.5, 6 months to turn it into what it basically was, which was 2 art galleries separated by a big wall to blow out that wall and turn it into a fully functional TV and poker studio. So that's what we've been up to the past few months, and I will say that it was at times a significant sweat to see if it would get done on time. And our big date was Super High Roller Bowl for that to happen, and we were very pleased that everything stayed on track, and we were able to open it up last week with Poker After Dark.
So with all that said, Sam, what do you think makes this studio stand out? It's already, you mentioned it, it's very unique. It's one of a kind, but what are some of the features that it offers?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is it's very conducive to our style of tournament that we often have in Aria, which is the high roller scene. And as you guys at some point this summer, I'm sure will stop by and check it out, you'll see it's very high end. There's TV monitors everywhere that can stream all of the games. There's a bar lounge set up in the back with massive big screen TVs. Everything in there is state of the art, top of the line, huge LED screen in the background that you might have seen during the WPT broadcast yesterday that can be retrofitted to represent a whole type, all types of different scenery, a bunch of different signage. So very flexible, very high end, and it's a great place to play. It's very central to everything. You're driving down the strip. If you're driving, if you're driving south and Aria's on the right hand side, you can see the PokerGo studio signage directly from the strip. It's right there in the middle of everything. So as much as it's a production studio, it's a destination as well. And we envision it being sort of the home for high stakes poker, not only in Vegas, but around the world. And we want it to become somewhere, and I think that it quickly will become somewhere that all the high stakes players want to play and all the fans of poker want to visit.
Man, tell me a little bit then. Well, by the way, everyone, just so you know, we're about to do this link. We're going to put this link out there so everyone can come in and join us. But are you able to talk at all about sort of, now that you guys have this studio, how frequently or what sort of with what sort of regularity we can expect to be getting live streaming, and also then these more heavily produced TV shows?
Yeah, I think the short answer is as much as possible. We've committed ourselves to over 100 days of live poker a year. So if you look at averages, you're looking at once every 3 to 4 days, you're going to see a live stream. This past year, this is actually, I don't know if it's the exact date, but very close to the 1 year anniversary of PokerGo's inception. We've had, I believe it's 114 days. And that was in a temporary space that was downstairs, basically in a basement of Aria. So the possibilities are endless once we have the full-time space open and the full-time team there with full-time equipment. It becomes that much easier. So and if you also factor in the fact that the past month and a half or so, we haven't had that many live streams, largely because we were moving everything from old studio to new studio, you're probably looking at 120 to 130 days per year at least, which is actually becomes almost exactly 1 out of every 3 days, which is fairly significant of an offering, I'd say.
Does this open the door, Sam, for content that is maybe a little more unique to the poker universe? Like in addition to a Poker After Dark or Super High Roller Bowl, that viewers will maybe see something that they've never seen before when it comes to poker content?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And we talk about ourselves as a live poker platform and our live event platform, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all of those events have to be sitting at a table playing poker. There's a plethora of other different types of content, different types of live programming that can now be done out of that studio. There's obviously there's the lounge area where you can look to do some interview style content. There's the break desk format. You can pull out the break desk, use that as a whole. You can set up tables. There's a bunch of other stuff you can do there. There's a streaming lounge. We do some esports stuff there as well. It's sort of like the hangout area where we all like to kick it during our live events. There's a lot of different spaces, essentially 4 different studios in one, which makes it pretty cool, and it makes it very flexible in terms of the type of stuff we can produce there.
Okay, I also want you to just go over a little bit.
Is this am I going the right way?
Other way.
It's tough.
I know.
Sam,
I have a mirror. There you are. You're there. You're there.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
We're good. We're good. We're in there. Well, I think one of the things, of course, being in. Well, first I have to shout out to all the homies who've been giving a million shout outs, and we haven't gotten to them. But Jeffrey, what's up? Van Vervoort. Where's Remco when we need him? You know what I'm saying? That's for sure a Dutchie. What's up, Brandon? Thank you guys so much for joining us and being here.
Hey, it's a shout out to Brandon and Max. Those are 2 homies from high school.
What?
Team Wax forever.
Oh, yeah.
Ride or die.
What is up, dude? I can't wait to get that yearbook, that Samson yearbook. What's up, Maxwell, Hunter? Little bro. Jeez, you guys go way back. You guys are old school homies.
Got the whole crew here, I guess.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, I want to talk a little bit, as someone who's also in the media. It's really difficult from time to time to get players to commit, to get players to, do media stuff in general. And
it's impossible.
Yeah, for sure. And so for you guys, like having not only that, but like next level is actually having them play and put their own money on the table and these type of things. So having a production like every 3 days, having something come out every 3 days. I mean, how are you guys managing to do this, especially in Vegas where there's, really a lot of sharks? I think, we were just at the Triton in Montenegro, and it's one thing when you can get a bunch of Chinese businessmen up in the game, but when you got to do it every 3 days, you can't always provide that, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of dynamics. There's a lot of egos to juggle. It's always a balance, and it's something that I know a lot about, but I don't handle myself, largely because I couldn't handle it. That is all thanks to our all-star, our player guy, Brent Hanks. He handles all of these games. He puts these lineups together. You have to walk the line of, you don't want the amateur players to come in and get slaughtered, but at the same time, you don't have a bunch of pros who want to come in and compete against one another. So it's a back and forth, and every lineup is different. Every lineup has its own set of personalities. We've had instances where, we've had some really sicko lineups that we've had planned out. We haven't been able to announce, and then something happens where the string unravels the morning of. And Brent, God bless his heart, I see him in the chat here. He's there scrambling, trying to pick up the pieces and get a lineup together last minute. And, 99 times out of 100, he ends up doing it because that's, he has a very extensive network in poker after the past year or so putting these together. And as far as the tournaments go, that's typically the case for cash games and poker after dark. But as far as the tournaments go, I think it's all about creating a player-friendly environment and putting something forward that's high quality. I think with the Super High Roller Bowl, of course, being rake-free, all of the events at Aria, at least for the first bullet and the 25, 50Ks being rake-free as well. The players appreciate that, and it creates a conducive environment to them. But additionally, I think there's something to be said for, especially if we take a Super High Roller Bowl, not only the studio now that we have, but the episodes going on NBC Sports. It's a broadcast quality of production, and there's a value to the players in that, and being able to be seen on network television in front of millions of fans at home.
Amen.
So Sam,
go ahead.
you said it. The Aria has proven that they're very committed to this entire process. We'll get into the Super High Roller Bowl in just a little bit, but you said it's rake free. You all have built this massive, one of a kind poker studio there. So what does all of this say about Aria's commitment to poker and to PokerCentral?
Yeah, I mean, it's unlike anything that we've seen in the industry in a while, I think. And I'd give props to Sean, Paul, Mike, Elaine, the whole team at Aria Poker. They've done a fantastic job. If you look at, we started working with them 4 years ago, and that was before that team was in place, but they joined Aria about a year or so later, maybe a little bit less. And if you look at where they were then and where they are now, you can not only count our events being Super High Roller Bowl, US Poker Open, Poker Masters, Poker After Dark, the new studio, and likely more events to come. But if you look at, say, the WPT, they just had the Bobby Baldwin Classic that happened there. They have the Tournament of Champions going on right now. They brought in the WPT 500 a couple years ago. So and not to mention their own series, I think it's the Aria Summer Classic. So they've done a fantastic job of creating, like I mentioned, that player conducive environment and bringing more fans in, more players in to enjoy the space and enjoy their poker room, which is top notch.
Well, you mentioned, trying to be more conducive also to this, more recreational or casual player. And word on the street is there's a little bit of a dress code, which I also would say might be just more conducive to entertainment for the rest of us. So do you guys want to talk about some of the things that went into deciding how you could build the most entertaining and fun poker environment? Yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day, it's Super High Roller Bowl and similar events, as important as they are as a live poker environment. It's a TV environment. We're filming this in a studio, and it's made for TV at its very core. So as much as we want to provide perks to the players, we think that for the entertainment value for fans at home, there are certain elements, not only the dress code where you can't wear sunglasses. We try to avoid. I mean, I will say that there are loopholes where I think it was Phil Locke a couple years ago came into Super High Roller Bowl with a giant, he had like a tiki hat on, which was par for the course. Like, how can you say no to that? But also with the shot clock too, especially when we're talking about live. We do it live on PokerGo now, but we were live on CBS Sports, I guess in 2016. And for a live poker show, for a casual fan at home to sit there and watch a guy tank for minutes at a time on every decision is just torturous, and it's no way it's viable as a TV product, especially for a casual fan. Of course, for when you make episodes, you can cut that down, but for live programming, it's just awful. So the shot clock, of course, is not only great for television, great for the players as well. Of course, that's picked up over the past couple of years with WPT implementing similar. WSOP is doing some stuff in that vein now, and then the big blind ante too speeds up the game, where you have there's no 6-7 people in a circle. One guy always forgets, and then the dealer has to make change. It becomes a big hassle. It makes things that much simpler and speeds up the game, makes it more fun to watch.
So, Sam, we're in this poker climate now, which is just full of high rollers. It seems like every week on the poker calendar, there's a 25K, 50K, 100K. Besides the price point of the Super High Roller Bowl being a $300,000 buy-in, what else do you think makes it really stand out? Because it does seem to remain the standout high roller event in the poker season.
Yeah, of course the buy-in is what it is. In most years, if it weren't for the big one for one drop being the $1 million this year, it would be the highest of the year. I think it's just the prestige of the event, and it's the television aspect is of course big. It's with the dress code, you feel like everyone comes dressed to the nines. It feels almost like a Casino Royale environment where it's a little bit elevated compared to your average tournament. And you could talk to a lot of these high rollers, and although you see guys who will play 25Ks, 50Ks, even I think it's tomorrow at Aria they're doing a single day. No, there's one happening today. There's a single day 100K, and imagine just playing 100K turbo and they do it without batting an eye. But something about this tournament just brings it up a notch, and it elevates it just a little bit more. And of course, at the very core of this, which we've yet to mention, is the Super High Roller Bowl ring, which I wish I brought it to Aria to be put in a safety deposit box 2 days ago, but I had it sitting in my office here, and I wish I had it to show you guys right now. But it's just so sick, and it's different events have different sort of symbols behind them. But if you look at all sports across the board, between football, basketball, baseball, nothing signifies success and greatness more than having a championship ring, and that's what this is in the Super High Roller Bowl.
And also for Those who went to high school with you, there's the high school ring, the ever elusive high school ring. So just don't worry, guys. We got that one. We did that. I want to say what's up to Brent. Thanks for being in the chat with us. Also, Narendra Sharma. That sounds legit. And Steven, definitely no diapers. You're totally right. Unless it's like done in a clever way, and then we accept. Now, I don't know if you are, and you're right, Mario. As soon as he said ring, I said hello. I'm listening. I was doing some retweeting on my phone, by the way, but
I couldn't tell you how many carats that is, but it's a nice one.
I'll take them all. But this is something Jeff and I were talking about in this week's podcast, a little bit about, one of the things that makes a Super High Roll, and just BTW, guys, this is not like paid advertising or something. Like, this is just legitimately, I voted for this as the best event of the year last few years in a row in the American Poker Awards. And I just think what the Super High Roller Bowl, one of the things that makes it so interesting and so cool is that I think that the players who are chosen and also who decide, which this is what we want to get into, to participate in this event, it always ends up with these really cool tables with players who have totally unique and different styles. It always ends up with, a couple people who have really bold personalities, a couple people who are just incredibly, GTO focused. And, I guess one of the things I want to talk about is just how you guys, what goes into creating this VIP lineup that is the Super High Roller Bowl.
I mean, I think it all goes back to creating that player conducive environment. And we all of a sudden, when you create an environment that the players want to play in and the players are treated well in a tournament structure that is great for those players. As they say, if you build it, they will come. So it hasn't really been anything that we've done other than put forth the structure, put forth the event, and the players have been overwhelmingly positive with signing up and coming out to play, which we greatly appreciate. So, I mean, we've been super lucky with that. I mean, it's our hardest part of the job is having to tell some people no.
That's what I was going to say, but this is like, some people are at the back of the line, like this is getting into the club. What is up?
It's tough. I mean, it's been interesting because the first year it was an open event and we ended up, I think, with 43 entries or something in the low 40s. And it was difficult because, we wanted to promote around the players and we wanted to market it like you would a sporting event. Think of as you would market a golf event, the Masters, the British Open, whatever you may say. The players, you can promote around the Tiger Woods, the Jason Days, the Dustin Johnsons. We didn't have that opportunity, and we promoted around players, and there were players that didn't show up, even though they had committed, and we have no real say in that. So to create an environment where, A, it created a sense of demand, where you needed to get a deposit in to come play, and B, we could figure out who the players would be so that we could then, promote around it and hype it up as a big major event. We created the cap on the number of entries, which has changed and fluctuated year over year while we find a sweet spot. This year we settled on 48. 2 months ago in mid-March, we had the lottery for 30 seats in that, and that determined the first 30, and the 18 would then be decided by Aria to be invited as Aria VIP guests.
What's up, Sean?
Sarah, does that help quell your conspiracy theories that are always running through your mind?
Okay, yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what you know about me, Sam, but I am deeply, deeply involved in the conspiracy world, and I believe
let's get on the rabbit hole.
I can get down on almost anything. But it's interesting because when you see the lineup, I just feel like, there's so many fantastic and amazing players in the poker world. There's also a lot of really interesting and cool, I think, business professionals we like to see. There's just those like rich, Tony G. Leon Sukernick types who we also like. And I was trying to decide, like, did Leon want to join or am I just really stirring things up here? Okay.
I have no comments
Plead
on that.
the
I see Sean in the chat though. Maybe he can answer that.
Yeah, you guys, Sean, what's up, Sean? He's boss of Aria. I don't know. Like, again, who knows what anyone's title is, but
Sean's the man.
Me and Sean
Sean's
go
the man
way
behind
back.
the magic.
He's won a lot of American Poker Awards, which says a lot about.
He's a well-decorated poker room guy, that's for sure.
See, and Max knows Sam's Illuminati. I knew it. Everybody that I love, everything. Yes.
They're on to me.
Anyways, I think I'm really excited. I love the event. I love the lineup. I also love even the lineup that it's not just like big poker faces. It's not just, there's also just sickos that people aren't going to know. And even, I was saying to Jeff yesterday, there's a few players that I don't even know very well that it keeps it fun for everyone, I think. And
yeah. I mean, we joked here because, and we feel like being in the world, we typically know most players. When you looked at that lottery list, there were probably upwards of 15, 20 names I had never heard of. And I had to go look them up. Some of them had like 50K to 100K in earnings who just hadn't been on the live scene much or were more cash game players. But a tournament like this is so illustrious and so great and so player friendly. It makes sense for a guy EV wise to make the trip out.
Sam, you made the comparison to a sporting event earlier, and you all have a program now, Insiders, on PokerGo. Well, first of all, we saw Dead Money a couple years ago, and that kind of went behind the scenes of Matt Berkey's preparation process leading up to the Super High Roller Bowl. And
shout out to Matt Berkey.
It also showcased what he was able to do there. This year, Insiders follows Brandon Adams and Seth Davies and Daniel Negreanu as they prepare for the Super High Roller Bowl. And it has the feel of a Hard Knocks, a 24/7 and all access, whatever sports documentary you want to compare it to. What was that, the goal here?
Yeah, I think it was. And I think for us, it was the goal was to highlight the amount of work that goes in behind the scenes as these players prepare for these events. And it's so easy to take for granted with the volume they play in the 25, 50Ks, where some people may think they just roll out of bed and show up to a poker tournament. And if the cards work out for them, they do well. And if they don't, then they don't. But there's so much studying that goes into it, so much hard work, so much not only with the mental preparation, but just the physical preparation and the working out and staying fit with how many players are into the yoga and the organic vegan eating these days, especially with a guy like Daniel. It goes unnoticed.
I can tell you're really into it.
Yeah. I'm, I can't wait to have my steak dinner tonight. The whole vegan thing.
The vegan, the whole organic thing.
Well, maybe that's why I'm not playing 50Ks. So that must be it.
Illuminati.
But yeah, no, that was the intent, and I think we found a great mix of players to participate in that, where you have sort of the whole spectrum of playing styles, from a guy like Seth Davies, who is very much in the lab, very GTO, Mr. Solver. I think it was a recent episode where he sits on the computer for 5 hours a day, going over different scenarios, mapping out the best course of action. I don't even know the terminology. Yeah, well, to each their own. On the other side of things, you have Brandon Adams, who's as much as he's analytical, he's very feel based. He's what you would define in that environment as a recreational player. There's a scene in the show as well where him and Patrick Antonius, actually, and a couple of their friends, I forget the name of the game, but they're playing like Liar Man's poker. I forget what it's called, where you hold the card face up on your head, and then you bet against what that person has versus what you have, not knowing what you have. So it's more about reading the other person based upon what they have versus your own hand. So it's a different dynamic there. And then sort of Daniel in the middle, where in the early 2000s up until, let's say, Black Friday, he was very much a field player and was crushing nonetheless. But now in this new environment, you've had to shift towards that GTO style, and he's made the change, I'd say, a lot better than most people from that era have. So it's interesting, and I think following them has been a real treat, not only for fans who've been able to watch, but for us, and being behind the scenes and all that has been really cool.
Man, I feel like if we don't go too crazy with this, we can still put this in next week's podcast. Like, I don't want to lose all this. I'm into it. But this is what we will do. We will put this in the podcast, and then now we're all going to have to eat crow after we talk about this. So we talk about GTO. We talk about how sick the lineup is. We very clearly know who's won the last few. What are you thinking, Sam? Who's going to ship this one?
Honestly, as being so selfish here, I'm really holding for one of the three guys we have on the show, because we have an epilogue episode that is going to be coming out after the event's over, with wrap-up interviews, reactions, things like that. We want to follow these guys from beginning to end. It's going to be a real bummer if the three of these guys bust on day one. But we have no influence in this, and no pun intended. But the chips will fall where they may.
Is full. Like, as soon as one of them ships it, this interview is going to come out as the conspiracy that this whole thing was rigged.
I'm going dark.
Rigged game, guys.
I'm not showing up to the Rio this summer.
Rigged game. It's gonna get so many hits.
Yeah, so here's something interesting, which we've been kind of dealing with, and I've been talking to Daniel about. The issue we've had more recently, not necessarily the issue, but something, a little bit of a conflict for Daniel, is his Golden Knights, where all of a sudden, with them in the Stanley Cup, they've got home games on Monday and Wednesday, where that would be day 2 in the final table of Super High Roller Bowl. So for a guy like that, like, how do you marry that? There was an article that went up about him potentially forfeiting his deposit. I do think he's going to be playing, but he
doesn't play for the Golden Knights, so they could keep playing, and he could play poker, and he can just TiVo that shit and watch it later.
If you asked him, I think he would tell you that him being in the stands wills them to win. He has like the Swami, extra.
My gosh.
He has another level that he wills it upon them from afar, from 10 rows up.
Daniel, you need to play the Super High Roller Bowl and let the Knights do the knighting. And
I think he'll be there. I'm guessing that he'll be a little bit splashy as a sort of a win-win, where if he does do well, he runs up a big stack early. If he doesn't, then he go watches the game. Who knows?
Dude, $30K too. Can you imagine? Like, he's just like, well, I might have to forfeit it. Hello. I don't know what you guys are doing with that extra, but do you guys, is that a thing where do you have people on standby basically, where if Daniel decides not to show up, that you can be like, hello, Dark Horse,
pretty
welcome.
Much. I mean, we do have a list. It's hard though. I mean, players make plans around this, so we also don't want to be in a spot where if we get to the morning of the 27th and we have to go down our list of who's available and say, hey, do you happen to have 300 grand on hand to go jump in this tournament? A lot of players are going to say no. So we like to know at least someone in advance. But I can tell you right now, as of about 20 minutes ago before we hopped on this call, there was there's always shuffling, always rumblings of this and that. So who knows where we'll land a couple days from now.
That's what keeps it fun for us. We're all like,
always
we don't
keep
know.
us on our toes.
We think we know who it will be. We don't.
No.
Well,
if you do, tell me, because I don't know.
Yeah, no clue. And like really actually I just had one of my camera guys too. He's like, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to like pull out for some of the days of the WSOP if the nights do this, blah, blah. I was like, this night thing is really starting to be a problem for the poker world, and I don't appreciate it. But I was watching just a couple days ago. I was going through some just old episodes and stuff on PokerGo, things I, just wanted to refresh my memory down old memory lane. And I was watching some episodes of Pokerography, and I started thinking about what are you guys looking at content wise outside of the next thing we will get into, of course, is the streaming schedule and what we can expect for the WSOP. But what are some of the things you guys are exploring in terms of other content, not, poker playing actual?
Yeah, everything's on the table. I mean, original programming is a big part of this for the PokerGo platform. If you look at anything similar like a Fight Pass or WWE, we can't have live poker every day. So what we do is we want to create content that surrounds the live poker programming to satisfy fans and paying subscribers during the sort of off days and off seasons. So, what our big strategy this year, as you could probably tell from Insiders, is to program around our major events. So obviously Insiders is very Super High Roller Bowl centric. We'll be producing some content around the World Series, and then more to come later in 2018. But it creates a whole ecosystem around the core of the product, which is the live poker. And I think Insiders is a great example of that, where it's sort of the backstory, the players. You mentioned Pokerography. It's almost like a mix of Pokerography with Super High Roller Bowl, and they meet in the middle, where you get the backstory of the biggest personalities as a part of that event.
Sam, Andrew in our chat asked, and I know you briefly went over this earlier, is the Super High Roller Bowl going to be in the new PokerGo studio? We know that it is. So what are some of the changes we'll see in the broadcast this year, considering that now all of a sudden you have every single table in one area?
Yeah, I mean, it's very nice for us. We have done it all in one area in the past. We did it in the convention center. I know Sarah's been on site before. It was way tucked away, and it was quite frankly a major hassle to get it set up. So just from like a procedural and process standpoint, it's great for us to have it all in one place and to have it a permanent home that we don't have to set up shop and then tear it down over a week's time. But it's going to enable, table by table coverage. I would say the biggest difference will be between, say, what a U.S. Poker Open or Poker Masters was, which was essentially only final tables and one day at featured table. And that was largely because the temporary studio, we were in only fit one table. So we had the prelim day in the poker room, and then the featured table the final table would come downstairs the next day to the studio to play out. But in this case, the featured table can happen simultaneously alongside the other tables, which will all be in the studio. And I believe it's 8 tables total the studio fits. So if you look at that, if you look at 8 times 6, 40 something. I don't do math. But yeah, it's
48.
48. There you go. Close enough. So 48 for that. And then you're talking 54 for seven-handed. So pretty much all of our events we are going to be able to have here. The studio itself actually has a cage. So even for the players, there's no need for them to leave the studio to buy in or re-enter. So it's a whole high roller ecosystem of its own. And for a Super High Roller Bowl, let's say, it's going to be nice. I mean, we'll have our feature table, but we'll have roaming cameras around, capture the major bust outs, and it's full 360 coverage of the whole event.
So I think it's time, since we've already been talking for like 30 minutes. Geez, Sam, you're really getting us off track here. To talk a little bit about the WSOP streaming schedule. And it's funny because Jeff and I were talking before this interview about how it seems like a relatively innocuous thing to talk about, like, we're going to talk about the streaming schedule coming up. But actually, it's this hugely controversial thing that everybody has an opinion on. And it's,
oh, yes.
And you guys jumping in the fray, I think last year something that was really, people had a lot to say about the covering of the coverage of these mixed game events, which I did a lot of talking to players about, getting their opinions. Of course, they all really liked it. And I think obviously we're all trying to evangelize mixed games into the poker world anyways. But you guys are also dealing with I mean, for me, understanding what it's like to schedule and do a lot of the, budgeting and back end stuff in terms of production, you guys are having, hosts out there. You guys have commentators. You guys have like a zillion, crew members, including video people, but also it's like, I mean, there's a lot of things going on. So what's going to be similar? What did you guys find worked last year? And what are some of the shifts we can see like, this didn't really, not so much?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd say last year was interesting, and I'm sure you guys saw a lot of what went on social media and whatnot. I think in general it was difficult for a number of reasons, and I certainly don't mean to make excuses, but I will say just transparently, we got that deal with WSOP done relatively last minute. So we were in a spot where the schedule was already decided for all the WSOP events, all the bracelet events were scheduled. So we had to, we got that done. We had to best utilize our production resources. Given that, coupled with the ESPN schedule, where we had to layer that on top of the World Series main event, and then obviously the main event ESPN set needs to be set up, and there's a whole process there that happens a week before that starts. So that interrupted the Poker Players Championship coverage. And there was a whole plethora of issues that arose where on the whole, on an event by event basis, I think the coverage was phenomenal quality wise. But in terms of all encompassing across a number of events and the events that were chosen, I could see how there could be some criticism. So we certainly took that to heart last year. We heard the fans loud and clear. And so we began, luckily this is our first full year of collaboration with Caesars and WSOP, which was awesome to have. So we began the process, I guess, like in September, October, super long time ago, in not only planning out the production and which events to cover, but planning out the schedule from the very beginning. And as one of the big changes this year in terms of, how the events are layered, the main events happening a little bit earlier this year. And whereas in previous years, pretty much, or for the most part, a lot of the bracelet events subside while the main event's ongoing, it's now a little bit earlier, and there's events all the way through the main event. That was largely because of the ESPN hours. We got great ESPN hours. We're going to have everyday live coverage for upwards, potentially some days 2 hours, but some days 4 to 5 hours of coverage, even on day ones, which is pretty unbelievable. I don't know the total number of live hours, but we have the final table again in its entirety broadcast on ESPN. We're going to have day 2 and the final table of One Drop on ESPN2. So great stuff there. And then, of course, the mixed game stuff, we got great feedback on that last year, and that is a big part of our schedule. And one of the issues we had last year, which was obviously a major issue, was that the 8-game graphics for especially the draw games weren't invented yet. So we just didn't have graphics to do these games, but we have, Maury Escandani, Dan Gotti, our executive producers with Poker Productions, and their fantastic team. Kelly Lewis is the guy that does all of our graphics. He's phenomenal. They literally go into the lab and invent graphics packages for these games. And so they spent this past year doing that. We debuted those during the 25K mixed game event at US Poker Open, and we're planning to use those this year during the World Series. So yeah, we're very excited about the schedule. And as you saw this week and this morning, we announced the PokerGo schedule on Tuesday. And then we're also going to be doing free events on Twitch this year as sort of a complement to the PokerGo piece. We announced that this morning, and so far the feedback's been great from what I've seen.
You did release it in 2 parts, like you said. The feedback's been great. It's very rare to see a poker announcement that draws no negative attention on Twitter, and I think that this announcement was able to accomplish that. How important is PokerCentral's partnership with Twitch as you guys move forward?
Yeah, it's instrumental, and it's just from a spatial standpoint on PokerGo, it's at least right now impossible for us to do multiple events per day. So, we understand the significance of the series to the fans and players alike, and we want to do our due part to highlight the events and highlight the players who emerge as the biggest personalities in those events. So the Twitch deal is important to us. They've been great to work with. Farhan, who runs Twitch Poker over there, has been fantastic to work with. Great dude. We're very excited about it. We have been working on that for the past few weeks, and I think it's going to be great. We essentially, and I don't have the exact stats, but from June 2nd, I believe, to July 17th, when I believe the big one for One Drop final table wraps up, we're going to have a stream every day which from a poker fan standpoint, you really can't ask for much better than that. I know that our production crews, having 2 different crews with some crossover, it's going to be a hectic summer for them, but all of us here, over there, and in the office here are buckled up for an intense but really fun summer.
Well, not that I'm like salty or anything, but I
Let's
know
hear
that
it.
Kara Scott is making a baby, and so I was like waiting for like by the phone all the last 6 months, trying to figure out when I was going to get my call to be the ESPN WSOP presenter. But I don't know who it is. It's obviously not me. That's fine. But who are some of the faces that we can be expecting to see this summer, both players and also presenters, commentators? Who are you guys like? Who's dipping their toes in the pool?
Well, first off, I want to say that we've touched on rings, and now we're in baby talk. So I don't know if there's a message we're trying to send here.
Oh yeah,
we're hearing it loud and clear, but you know, I'll leave that to you.
Just saying.
Anyways,
just saying, guys.
Personalities
I'm a
to
woman.
be featured. Fair enough. Personalities to be featured. We have one sitting with us today. Jeff's going to be joining especially on the Twitch broadcast, going to be one of our play-by-play guys. We're very excited to have him. I wasn't present for his little rehearsal that he did with Dan a few months ago, but I heard he did a fantastic job, and we're looking forward to having him in the booth. And then you'll see a lot of the usual suspects too. Ali Najad is one of our marquee personalities in all of our Poker After Darks. He'll be doing a lot of play-by-play. Of course, you'll be seeing the legendary Norm and Lon. We'll be doing a lot of material not only on ESPN but also some on PokerGo, and we're happy to have them. And of course, a name synonymous with the WSOP, Dave Tuckman, will be doing a lot of these streams as well. So it's a lot of familiar faces, and then you could expect a rotating cast of color commentators. I would tell you names if I could, but a lot of times it comes down to who's available, and we're just handling it day by day. So we'll see. But we have sort of our favorites who have done a great job in the past, and we do whatever we can to get them back in the booth. And I will say who I'm most excited for is someone who has made their talent appearance only just in recent months is Brent Hanks. You can probably expect to have some time in the booth as well.
I endorse Brent.
Sam, I was with Brent Hanks, and he is awesome. I know you guys have heard him here and there on Poker After Dark when he subs in for Ali Najad, but he's great. Just the entertainment value that he brings to the broadcast, I think, is off the charts. You discussed the main event coverage, how that will again be aired live on PokerGo, on ESPN2, on ESPN. How would you sum up, Sam, how that went last year? What do you think there is to improve on moving forward? Because this is almost the staple of main event coverage. Effectively replacing the November 9 was, hey, we're showing the main event and we're doing it live.
Yeah, I think all things considered, it went really well last year. And I say what you want about the streaming last year as far as the schedule and the selected events goes, but in terms of quality, it's always been top notch, and that's all credit to Maury, Dan, and their team over there. We are very pleased with it. We are very pleased with the number of hours we get on ESPN. We have sort of a guy behind the scenes who is the mastermind behind all of this, J.R. McCabe. He does all of our distribution deals with the likes of ESPN and NBC, and he's done a great job working with them on that. It's going to be great this year, and it is. You mentioned the November 9, and even last year we had a day in between day 7 and the final table. This year's going to be special because there is no day between the day 7 and the final table. It is literally wire to wire, day 1A till there is a winner crowned. There is not one off day. So it is. I think it's an interesting dynamic. It's literally the opposite of what the November 9 was. You're going to go into that final table just about as good of a poker player as you were when you came into day 1. So it'll be cool.
But let's selfishly just pretend like the poker players don't exist in this environment. And so we have all the media there for this whole, WSOP main event thing that there's all this buzz and hype about. And then right after that, the next day will be the One Drop, which is also a huge event that's going to be crazy and everyone wants to see and get good coverage of, which is 3 more days. So do you think that everyone is going to die? How is this? Are we all going to be okay by the time this huge One Drop winner happens? Are we even going to be awake anymore?
I mean, you're telling me that's going to be the conclusion of a long summer for all of us. I mean, it's as much as it is for the media. If we think about the production team where they're producing for ESPN, and you're starting with 7,000 some odd players, and you have to track storylines and find information on the 9 that will end up being the finalists. And there's there's not much time to do that. So it's a hectic summer for everyone. It worked out that way with the ESPN hours, and I think ultimately it's the most truly representative of poker skill, where you don't have, and not that you could do a lot in a day, but if you talk about November 9, you don't have the opportunity to go into the lab with a poker player. I know, I don't say I know, but it seemed like Doug Polk was on the rail for Dan Ott last year. Yeah. So it seemed like maybe the previous day there had been some cramming on some various poker lessons and poker learnings. You don't really have that time this time around. So when things wrap up, chances are the final table is going to come, or the final table bubble will burst pretty late into the evening on day 7, and then you got to turn it around, get a good night's sleep, and get ready in the morning for a final table that could change your life, or will change your life regardless. So it'll be interesting to say the least. It'll be tiring for everyone involved, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
I think we all are. So PokerCentral is working with ESPN, as we know, working with NBC Sports, as we know. PokerCentral has its own streaming service in PokerGo, as we know. Are these all signs as to maybe how bright the future is of poker?
Yeah, and we certainly think that way. Yeah. And I think there's been a lot of, over the past several years, a little bit of doom and gloom post Black Friday. And I've been saying this for a couple of years now, where when I entered this industry about 4 years ago, there was this sort of anticipation for, things are going to change when online poker comes back. And for the time being, let's remain in a holding pattern until then. And when it does, we're going to do stuff. And our mentality coming into this was, we're not going to wait around for that. And I think for me, I almost had the advantage. I had been around poker pre-Black Friday other than as a fan watching at home. So I didn't really know the money that was coming into the industry and how easy it was to bring in sponsors at that point. And I think there were some people who became jaded from that and were basically resting on the laurels waiting for that to return. And we took a different approach, and we've gone all in, no pun intended, on poker content since then. We're not waiting for anything, and I think it's caught on. Not that we were the ones to set that in motion by any means, but you're seeing the likes of Doug Polk, Joe Ingram, a lot of these great content creators across poker now really diving into creating content for the sake of content, not looking for sponsorships, not trying to make a quick buck off of it, but just creating great content, which has been great to see. That being said, if you look at the Supreme Court stuff from last week, it's the future's bright. We'll put it at that.
Yeah, that's why I always have to wear my Spade sunshades. Plug.
It is. Hey. But not at the Super High Roller Bowl. No shades allowed.
No,
that's right.
We're trying to keep things entertaining. Well, we have had you for 45 minutes, which is on our podcast 1,000 years. Shout out Joey Ingram. And Mama not doing any 4-hour long podcast, but I want to thank all of our homies in the shout box. I didn't get to say hi, but Tuckman, I can't wait to see you. I'll see you next week in Barcelona, my boss. Mario, thank you so much. I just appreciate all the feedback, you guys. Thank you, Sam, for taking the time to be with us. I'm sure we'll catch up with you more this summer, and I'm sure we'll catch up a lot with a lot of the players on your team, the people who are making all this stuff happen. And yeah, it's exciting. It's always good to feel like it's not dying. Sometimes I need a little affirmation here and there.
It's far from dead, and I've never felt more alive, to me at least. And first off, thank you very much for having me here. I just want to say to the general fans at home, PokerCentral and PokerGo in its very nature, we're very fan feedback oriented. So anytime, my Twitter handle is at Samson Simmons, SAMPSON Simmons. Feel free to reach out. Any recommendations, content wise or otherwise, you may have. We'd love to hear it. So our door is open. Feel free to contact us anytime.
But mine's only if it's going to be positive feedback. As everyone at Poker News knows, I don't take constructive criticism well. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to PokerCentral for all the awesome content and PokerGo. And also, I know that Poker News has made some partnerships. We're going to have some subscriptions, some 30-day subscriptions, courtesy of 888. We're going to have a few different things. So you want to, of course, keep your cursor here on Poker News to try to get that PokerGo if you don't have it already. Also, I love you too, Brent Hanks. I did see a little primetime poker report the other day, and it reminded me of our glorious memories together. Thank you guys so much. Deuces.
Adios. Well,
this was an extra special long podcast for you guys. We've I think this should be a little taste of what you're going to be able to get and expect from the World Series. I will be back in the United States on the 7th. We're hoping to book up an interview with Lance Bradley, who I'm sure you guys know. He's been in the poker industry forever. He's won a ton of American Poker Awards, and he is releasing a book. So I'm pretty excited about that. He's got all kinds of juicy gossip. He wore the same shirt for a year or something. We're definitely going to dig in, but Jeff's going to be at the WSOP from the whole thing, there from the beginning, there to the end. So he's going to be there getting, some of those juicy interviews that we need, some of those winner interviews. Jeff, I'm really glad I can count on you to be there.
Oh, you got it. It starts off with a bang too. It's like there's 100K, just boom, here's event number 5. Let's have 100K. So Great. It's going to be a pretty massive first week. So we'll miss you, but we'll cover strong for you.
Yeah, good. Thank you. I'm sure everyone will be really sad I'm not there, but thank you guys so much, of course, for listening. We appreciate it. Thank you so much to all of our sponsors. Thank you to Roberto Moreno for always putting up with all of my BS. I also want to give a shout out to our other podcasts. If you haven't listened, give a listen to the other podcasts in the PokerNews Podcast Network. They're all great, and they all have sort of like a different spin. Right now, I'm really into True Gambling Stories, which releases once a month. It's sort of a, like true crime stories, but gambling stories, which I love. This is Jeff Platt. You can follow him on the Twitter at Jeff Platt, Platt. You can follow me on the Twitter at Aunty, Aunty Chardonnay. Just Google how to spell Chardonnay. It's fine. And always hashtag us PNPod. No one ever does that except for me, but if you did that, I would know. And yeah, we will just look forward to talking to you guys soon. Deuces.